Have you ever imagined what would happen if, in the middle of a flight, the pilot suddenly collapsed and all hope seemed lost? Most people would panic. But what if the only person who could save everyone was a 16-year-old girl who had never flown a commercial plane before? This isn't just a story about survival, it's about courage, instinct, and the unlikeliest hero you could ever imagine. And before we dive into this breathtaking journey, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because we bring you stories that will leave you on the edge of your seat. The flight from Orlando to New York had taken off on a clear morning, the skies wide and friendly. Families with children settled in, business travelers adjusted their laptops, and tourists flipped through guidebooks. Everything was routine. But 2 hours into the flight, a sudden announcement shook the cabin: medical emergency in the cockpit. The words weren't part of the usual script, and passengers stirred in confusion. Flight attendants rushed forward, their faces pale, whispering frantically into radios. Within minutes, it was clear, the captain had collapsed. He wasn't responding. And though a co-pilot was present, the chaos in the air became painfully real when turbulence hit, rattling the jet like a toy in the sky. Among the passengers was Emily, a 16-year-old high schooler traveling alone for the first time. To most people, she was just another teenager, earbuds in, notebook filled with doodles in her lap. No one on that plane knew she had been training in flight simulators for years, guided by her late father, who had been a small aircraft pilot before his passing. Flying was her hidden passion, her way of staying close to the man she'd loved and lost. She never imagined that passion would become a lifeline for over 100 strangers. The intercom buzzed again. Is there anyone on board with flight training experience? We need assistance immediately. Passengers froze. Some gasped. Others prayed. And then, hesitantly, Emily raised her hand. The flight attendants blinked in disbelief. "You're, how old?" one stammered. 16, Emily admitted, her voice trembling. "But I know how to fly." It sounded insane, but desperation leaves no room for doubt. Minutes later, she was being ushered into the cockpit. The scene inside was terrifying. The captain lay slumped, unconscious, while alarms blinked angrily across the control panel. The co-pilot was fighting to stabilize the aircraft, sweat pouring down his face. He looked at Emily and almost laughed. "This is no game, kid." But she met his eyes with steel. "I know. Just tell me what you need." Her confidence, raw but unshakable, broke through his panic. With no other choice, he agreed. Emily slipped into the captain's seat, her small hands resting on controls built for veterans of the sky. The co-pilot barked instructions, but soon realized she already knew more than expected. Throttle steady. Altitude hold. Eyes on horizon, she repeated to herself, her father's lessons echoing in her mind. The plane steadied, leveling against the stormy air. The passengers, unaware of the details, felt the sudden calm and whispered prayers of relief. Air traffic control patched through, their voices crisp but urgent. "Flight 382, do you copy? Who is in command?" Emily leaned toward the mic, her heart racing. "This is Emily Carter. I'm 16. The captain's down. I'm flying the plane." There was silence on the frequency. Then, disbelief. Then, finally, calm instructions. Controllers shifted their focus entirely on her, speaking slowly, guiding her step by step. For the first time in aviation history, hundreds of lives rested on the shoulders of a teenage girl. Every minute felt like an hour. Emily's palms were slick with sweat, but her grip never wavered. She adjusted flaps, corrected drift, and followed descent patterns as if she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her bedroom simulator. The co-pilot watched in awe. "You're flying this bird better than half the rookies I've trained with," he admitted. But Emily didn't smile. Her jaw was set, her eyes unblinking. She couldn't afford to think of anything except the runway ahead. As the aircraft approached New York airspace, fighter jets were scrambled to escort it in, ready for any emergency. The sight of F-16s flanking the jet both terrified and comforted the passengers. Meanwhile, in the cabin, whispers spread, "A kid is flying us." Met with disbelief and hope. Mothers hugged their children tighter. A man clutched his cross. The elderly couple in row 14 wept quietly, not in fear, but in gratitude that someone, anyone, had stepped up. The runway came into sight, a thin gray line cutting through the city lights. Air traffic controllers spoke calmly, "Flight 382, you are cleared to land." "Emily, it's all you." Her heart thundered. Her father's voice rang in her head, "Trust the instruments. Trust yourself." She lowered the landing gear, adjusted the throttle, and guided the jet toward Earth. The wheels screamed as they hit the asphalt, the cabin lurching forward. For a terrifying moment, it felt like the plane might skid off course. But Emily corrected with precision, pulling the aircraft steady until it rolled to a safe stop. The cabin erupted. Applause, cheers, tears, strangers hugging strangers. The co-pilot, still in shock, muttered, "Kid, you just saved over 100 lives." Emily leaned back, trembling, tears in her eyes, but a smile breaking through. She whispered to herself, "We did it, Dad." When the doors opened, paramedics rushed in for the captain, while passengers refused to move until they had seen their hero. A girl who had boarded as just another passenger walked out as a legend. Reporters would swarm, headlines would scream, and the world would marvel at her courage. But Emily didn't care for fame. She only cared that she had honored her father's memory and brought everyone home alive. And that, my friends, is how a 16-year-old girl proved that courage has no age limit, that sometimes the unlikeliest person is the one who saves us all. If this story gave you goosebumps, if it made you believe in the extraordinary power of ordinary people, then make sure you subscribe right now. Because we bring you more incredible stories that remind us all, heroes aren't always who you expect.